Greetings. It is so vital to our very survival that we see the truth fully and in its essence, which is very easy to do. All we have to do is open our eyes and connect the dots. Yesterday, the government of Evo Morales of Bolivia was overthrown in a coup d'etat orchestrated by the United States through its puppet agency, the Organization of American States, which is an organization consisting of South and Central American countries. So, Evo Morales had been in power for 14 years, and he was so popular that the Constitution was amended to allow him an additional term, and in a very closely contested election that concluded a week ago, he was re-elected president. Now, the election was very closely contested because of the shenanigans, manipulations of the ruling class of Bolivia that engaged in all manner of shenanigans and just voter fraud. Nonetheless, Evo Morales, who was the first indigenous person, the only indigenous person of Bolivia to become president. So, the United States implemented a policy that seems to be somewhat new in its destabilization regime change program. That is to say, they finance, organize the gullible or disenfranchised ruling class of a country into violent protesters en masse and present this to the world as a spontaneous democratic uprising, demonstration against injustice. So this is what they did. They've done this in Venezuela, continue to do it in Hong Kong, Chile, elsewhere. But the fact is that this is a tactic that white segregation now employs. And they employed it with great success in Bolivia the other day. Thousands of people from the, the displaced ruling class, the exploited class, were mobilized and engaged in very violent protests against Evo Morales and his government. So violent, so threatening, in fact, that the whole government resigned. The members of the government cabinets were threatened, their families were threatened, and Evo Morales was threatened himself. So he resigned, but not for that reason. He resigned because he is such a humanitarian, such a visionary, such an honorable person. Rather than allow an escalation of the very violent protests against his countrymen, he opted to resign, and his loyalty, or the loyalty that his cabinet had for him was so great, everybody resigned en masse. Still, many of them were rounded up in handcuffs, brought before an oppressive tribunal, very reminiscent of the days of the Latin American dictatorships with Chile, Pinochet, and others, in handcuffs by masked men, heavily armed, just very repressive, very intimidating. And so this is what the situation is now. A very righteous, progressive government, beautiful society was overthrown in order to get a puppet in power who would allow the United States and other white countries to exploit the economy of the Bolivian people again. Now, the reason this is important, not just because of its humanitarian value, but also because these people, the Bolivian people, are our natural allies. In the world, there are only two forces at play. The one force is white subjugation. The other force is everybody else. Everybody else, all these countries that are bombed, exploited, oppressed, victimized, all of these countries are our natural allies. These are the very allies from the global community who in times past, the 60s and 70s, were instrumental in our gaining black liberation, so-called civil rights here in this country. We did not do it alone in a vacuum. This is the myth, but that's another story. It's because of our international alliances that we were able to gain freedom, such as we have today, material comforts. We're able to enjoy our lattes and laptops because we had support from the global community. So, in order for us to triumph in the future, we must have that same support. We must support all those struggling against injustice, oppression, every instance of exploitation or political repression. We should oppose mightily because it is in our interest. All of these countries, all these communities, all these people are different battlefronts in the one war. So, white subjugation is very conscious of its unity, of its monolithic nature. We must be equally conscious of the need for unity, realizing that all of these other countries and people, their survival or their demise directly determines our future. Ashe. Unite, unite, unite.